Hey guys, welcome back to Control Z Crypto. So today we're going to have a look back through the dashboard spreadsheet I've got here, listing all the ROI apps that I'm aware of that are currently active, and just go through and look at their updates, what's happened since I've last done an update, and there are a couple of new ones on there as well. Yeah, let's just have a look and see where my predictions are holding up, or if they're not holding up, and if there's anything unexpected there, and go through and make any updates. So I haven't looked through these yet entirely, so there may be some updates that I make during the course of this video. As always, this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. These are my own opinions and my own predictions, basically. I'm just showing you what my risk evaluation is of all of these contracts. You should be aware that all of these are ROI apps. They are very risky by nature. As I've said in previous videos, they're basically Ponzi schemes. So you can watch my previous video on ROI DAPPs Ponzi schemes if you're unsure about what that means. But definitely be aware of what they are, how they work before you invest, and do your own research. So if you're going to invest in any of these DAPPs, there are links in the description for transparency. Some of those are referral links, and if you use them, I do get a cut of your deposit. So it doesn't actually come off what your returns are, but just for full transparency, those are in the description. If you do choose to use the links and you decide that the information that I'm sharing here is valuable, I encourage you to use those links. But of course, I'm not, by no means am I telling you to invest in these DAPPs. In fact, several of them I'll basically kind of warn you against. So with all that being said, let's take a look at the spreadsheet. Now, there's been a couple of requests for, can I share this spreadsheet? Can we have it available 24/7? So the answer right now to that is not really, and for a couple of reasons. One is that there are API keys embedded in the spreadsheet, which I don't really want to share. They're private keys. And the second is that it's very much a work in progress, and I'm still dealing with issues like API errors and things like that kind of cause these things to throw up errors, which you may even see during the course of the video, which I need to kind of go in and manually fix. So this is kind of a new thing that I'm working on. I think, as time goes on, I'll definitely looking at improving the format and having something that's a little bit more shareable, maybe putting it on a kind of a live site or something along those lines. But, take it a day at a time. I do have a full-time job as well, so it's I only do what I can here. All right. So let's start with, Stable 1. I think we don't need to talk about that anymore. It has ended. And I think I covered this in the last video. It's, for me, I really like the Stable 1 type of ROI DAPP, basically the daily returns. I think it's a good way to control risk, and I like that style of app. But of course, and for Stable 1, I got in not right at the start. I think I got in a few days or more late, and I still made a profit. So 125% return on investment, which is pretty good. So that's why I like these, because even if you don't last the full length of time, you do at least get most of your investment back, which is not what happens if you're in one of these locked contracts. So I prefer to keep the risk low, keep the returns reasonable. 20% return in whatever that was that I was invested in, basically a week. 20% return is great. And I would be happy to do that over and over again if that's possible. But let's not talk about Stable 1 anymore. That's gone. I'll just hide that in the spreadsheet. Daily Matic, I predicted would end today, March 15th. And, it may end in the next few hours, or it may kind of peak into March 16th. We'll see how that goes, but I think that's pretty much spot on from my prediction there. Basically, the balance as of what I've called the end of day, midnight UTC. And I'm just going to mention this now because of the issues I'm having occasionally with these formulas. Some of these may not be midnight exactly. Some of them may have had to be updated later. But the point is here to show basically if the last end of day balance, or like at a fixed point, is going up or down in terms of live balance. So you can see this end of day balance around midnight UTC, which was about 10 hours ago, where I am now. That live balance, that current contract balance, it has dropped down. So it's these live balances are updated roughly every 10 minutes or so. And you can see that one's dropped down. 58,000 is not going to last very long, especially with a daily withdrawal. There's no lock-in contract there. So that one is going to die definitely within the next 24 hours, in my opinion. But Daily Matic is like Stable One. I've managed to withdraw. This is my actual figures over here. So this ROI is actually, it's the top one, 112%. So that's 112%. If I can manage to make one more withdrawal today, I think in the next hour or so, I'll be able to do that. Then that should come up to maybe 120, 125%, which is a great ROI. So like Matic Staker, but I would not recommend investing, just given that it's got less than 24 hours to live on the basis of the contract balance. Okay, let's have a look at Polystaker. So Polystaker, just to remind us what this is one where you've got several different plans. And the interesting thing about Polystaker is you have this hold bonus. I actually made a withdrawal yesterday. I just decided that rather than kind of hold out for an extra % or 0.1% a day, at that point I wanted to control my risk and make a withdrawal. But that hold bonus and the kind of snooze function on some other of these, a lot of people are saying that it's going to be effective. I don't think it's going to be all that effective in ensuring the prolonging these contracts. But let's have a look. So the live balance at the moment is 403,000. It's a slight drop from this morning, and that's not kind of danger territory. That's a moderate drop, but we are fairly late. We're 10 days into the contract, and it is a contract that allows daily withdrawals. So you can see there's no lock in there. So you'd expect basically that to kind of go down in a linear fashion, not a sharp drop like we've seen on some of the lock-in ones. And I've said may last longer due to hold bonus, and I have the end date here on March 16, which is basically in the next 24 to 48 hours of operation. I'm expecting this to drop down. So this is interesting because the live balance and the end of day balance are higher than I think you would expect at this stage. In fact, let's go to my model for Polystaker. And by today, the 15th of March, you expect the contract balance to hit 139. So what that's showing me is that likely this hold bonus is actually encouraging people to hold their withdrawals and not take them out, which is a good thing for longevity. But and I've explained this before, but I'll take the time because there's always comments about these snooze functions and these hold bonuses. So my view on them, we'll see if it's borne out in reality. But my view is that, look, if you follow this green curve of the contract balance, basically this is the ability of the contract to pay back people who are owed money, or pay back people who are whose withdrawals are eligible on a daily basis. Now, even if people hit that snooze button or hold for longer, so you'll see the curve of the actual contract kind of come up here and maintain a much higher rate. But in reality, once you get past this date of the contract owes more than it can pay, then the people who are holding beyond that date are taking a big risk. So in my opinion, it's all going to come down to whether people see the risk that they have in holding. And if they kind of continue to hold, at some point, people are going to start withdrawing, because you can imagine what's actually owed at that point is way down here. This gap is going to be way bigger, and you got the contract balance up here. So it's just going to kind of drop to zero very quickly. That's the way I see these playing out. So even, in my opinion, even though the contract balance is higher than you would expect at this stage, significantly higher, I think that's because of the hold bonus and the fact that people are trying to take advantage of it. But I think that roughly around the 16th, 17th of March, people are going to realize that the balance is dropping and they should, cut their losses or get money out before it's too late. But I'd be really interesting to see what actually happens in reality. So look at this on the 16th, 17th, 18th of March, see if it's still operational. And if it is, that's a good sign for hold bonuses and snooze functions, that people aren't behaving what I would say optimally or logically, really, if they're snoozing once the balance has gone down theoretically to zero. But people don't always behave in that way, so it wouldn't be a complete surprise if they do. All right, let's look at the next one. Matic. I've predicted 4 days left in that contract, and again, this is one with a snooze function. People have a lot of faith in that snooze function, and I think, look, it is actually holding the balance up there. If I look at the where we're expecting to be today, the contract balance should be around about 971,000 Matic, just on the basis that the contract should be at this stage, where we are about the 14th, 15th of March, should be paying off people who invested here. So you saw a large investment up front in Matic and a huge drop down in investment. So when we're at this point, what's happening is we're actually paying back people who invested there. And because these were such large initial investments over the first few weeks, then that should take the balance down really quickly. And so that's not actually happening so much. The balance is staying high for reasons that I just explained. For Polystaker's snooze hold function, I don't think that is going to last. And I think that somewhere around March 19th, maybe a few days later, as I've said, 19, 20, 21, is when I see this one going under. And I would expect a really, really sharp fall because, once again, you're going to kind of artificially maintain this line with a snooze function. And as soon as people start panicking and realize that the line is dropping, it's not going to just drop a little bit because everyone can get their money out. It will absolutely just fall off a cliff. So that's what I'm predicting for Matic, and let's see how that plays out. And so for all of these I've said so far, just note the late. Look, this is late, just means basically more than a week since the start of the contract. Balance is going down. These are indicators that even though they are good contracts, they've got some life left in them. I wouldn't be investing personally in them today. So that's what that means. Matic Fury has actually just hit zero today, I think it was, or yesterday potentially. No, I think it was today. And that's right on target in terms of my prediction there, March 15. So I predicted that a few days ago it would hit zero today. So it just kind of more reinforces to me that this model works pretty well, especially for the daily withdrawal apps. It means that it's pretty spot on. So Matic Fury, all the Fury ones are characterized by a really high rate of 20%. And so you expect a pretty short life. And this one lasted 8 days. But so of course we're not investing in that because it is dead. So let's just mark that as dead. Matic Fury is dead. But what have we here? Matic Fury version 2. So if you actually go to the site, as I did earlier, let's see if I can find it amongst all of my tabs. All of a sudden, Matic Fury V2 has appeared. So it looks like they've just basically ran out of money, contract has ended, and literally the same day, they've just changed the contract link and they've just carried on as if nothing has happened. This all looks exactly the same. You got the same slider, you got the same plan, the plans, you've got everything that looks the same ridiculously high level of referrals. But it's a new contract. It's a brand new contract, smart contract, brand new account. The balance has gone down again. It's very low. It started from zero. So, this is interesting. These guys have basically, it's collapsed instead of doing what most people do and kind of rebranding, starting a brand new Ponzi scheme and calling it Matic, I don't know, Angry Matic or something like that. They've just added a V2 at the end of it and just pretended like nothing has happened, which I think is just fascinating. So should you invest in Matic Fury V2? Well, look, I'll tell you what, click on this audit site audit. When I clicked on this earlier today, yep, it did nothing. So I'm not very confident in Matic Fury V2 because, number one, it's kind of a bit of a dodgy thing just to basically clone your own contract, get rid of all traces of the initial one off your site as if it never existed, and then just kind of start again. So people who already have money in there, they connect their wallet, they go down and they're like, hey, where did my money go? Well, you know, this is a new contract, same website, same URL, new contract. No audit, so they haven't bothered to resubmit the new contract for audit, but presumably it's safe enough. Presumably it's a clone of the old contract. It's just a straight copy, but I've got no way of telling that. I mean, I'll probably just do a cut and paste of the old code and have a look and check it. It's, in all reality, it's probably exactly the same. They probably just haven't changed it. So this is a weird one. I don't know if I'd personally invest in this. If I look at, let's take a look at transactions, 75 transactions on this so far, and it is, how old is it? 15 hours old. 15 hours, 75 transactions, and a really low balance, 3,000 Matic. So look, this honestly doesn't look like it's going anywhere at this stage. This is definitely one to invest at your own risk. I wouldn't invest. I don't think that if you're talking about the minimum there being a week, it's probably unlikely you're going to get that back, in my opinion. This is locked, so you're not going to get a daily return back, I think. So I think I've made a mistake on this one before. I think it is locked. Vested plans. Let's just see. I can't even check the audit anymore because it's not on there. Let me just double check my spreadsheet there. Sometimes it's hard in your mind to try and keep track of all of these. So actually, no, this is not locked. So you can get some back every day to mitigate your risk a little bit, but basically invest at your own risk here. The uptake is very low. There is no audit, and this is kind of dodgy. You know, just pretending like nothing's happened, cloning your contract, and just you know, moving on. It seems like it's dodgy, and the uptake reflects that. So you can see this just says value, and this is what I'm talking about. The reason why I don't want to share this, because you've got these little issues with APIs limiting to 5 calls per second that just kind of don't update very well. So look, in its defense, the balance is going up. So since earlier today, it's kind of gone up by 1,000. We are early, I will say that. But I'm predicting days it'll last is 8 or probably less. There's no audit. And yeah, I wouldn't invest in this, even though it's day one, and that's that in my book is high risk. So Matic Vault. So Matic Vault is interesting. It is actually starting, I think, in a couple of hours as I write this, probably in about 5 hours or so. It's kicking off. Now Matic Vault on paper actually looks like well, it's exactly like Daily Matic. Exactly, so you can see the website. It's pretty much the same thing, and it's very similar to Stable One. All of these are clones essentially, but there are a few differences. So we've got this 7% daily on Matic Vault with this 5% daily bonus. And I think last time I covered Matic Vault, there was not an audit in place, or there was limited information on the site. So now it looks like that audit is up. And basically it's not showing me anything that is unusual. But you know, you've got these high fees on owner's fee. This is a deposit fee. And you've got this weird kind of 25% of each withdrawal goes back into reinvestment, and then they take a fee on that. So your withdrawal is not quite that 7%. And on top of that, they have this really high rate of basically daily hold bonus. So is that mentioned in this audit? I thought I did see it when I looked at this today, but I've been looking at so many of these. I may miss it. Serious, sorry. 5% hold reinvest bonuses. So users will receive a 5% daily bonus on holding. Dividends max hold bonus is 5. The hold bonus will only be applied on reinvesting. Okay. So look, I didn't miss that detail last time I looked at it. So I'm actually going to discount that hold bonus because for me, that doesn't really make much of a difference. You only get the bonus when you're reinvesting. I don't think most people are going to reinvest. So I'm happy to just keep the interest rate here at 7% times 7.5. So that's 7% daily minus the amount that they take out that gets reinvested. And then you've got a reinvest rate of really 3%, which is that 7% plus times 0.25. That's the amount that gets reinvested. So when it gets reinvested, it means that you basically earn interest on that. It's not just a straight tax. And they've got a deposit tax that you pay. And so we're left with 5.25%, 1.75%. And because there's zero actual figures in here, if I look at Matic Vault, put that 5.25 and 1.75 in, 5.25, 1.75. We can have a look at basically what is the ideal lifespan of this based on just the underlying figures. So let's do this kind of live. You can see kind of how this works. All right, it's just going to change the range here. Okay. So we don't have a live balance, obviously, for Matic Vault. There's nobody's invested. There's no rate increase, but there's a flat 5.25, was it? And 1.75 reinvest rate that is returned. That is that 7% minus the 25% that gets reinvested. So both of these add up to 7, just like on the website. There's a contract tax, but no contract fee. And if you look at the way this model works, there's $50,000 assumed new investments, but actually it doesn't matter how big this number is, as long as it doesn't change the end date, as long as the daily investments are flat. That is really all that matters for the contract. If that stays consistent, under ideal situations for these ROI DAPPs, you want it to just have kind of exactly the same amount going on every day, and that means that green curve, the contract balance, will last as long as it can possibly last. So if that happened, the lifespan of the project is April 12th. So that's quite a long lifespan. And that's why I like these daily return apps, is because you can kind of have that longer lifespan as long as the interest rate is manageable, as long as it's fairly low. They should last fairly long. Now, what's going to skew this is if you get a lot of investments on day one and not so many investments after that. I think, which is actually the investing. I think that people are moving into that direction. A lot of people are getting savvy to these. They're investing on day one or day two, and the number of investments subsequently is much smaller. So I think it's pretty reasonable to expect that that's going to happen. So I think putting that target out in a month's time, in April there, or 28 days time, however long that is, I think that's unrealistic. I think it'll realistically be much sooner. It's probably too early to put a date on that, but look, expected rate of return, if it did last till April 12th, is 147%. So you'd make 147% of your investment if it lasted that long on a daily return. But and actually, I'm not sure if it's going to be more due to the compound. I can't remember if that's in the spreadsheet, but that's a pretty good margin of error that I'd be willing to invest in. Because you're getting your daily returns, you're mitigating your risk, and if it falls a few days short of the payback period, then at least you get 90% of your return. But as long as it gets over that payback period, you're kind of just making more money. So for my view, I think this is probably a worthwhile investment, and I will be investing once this contract goes live. One more thing I'll say on Matic Vault is just what I've noticed, or what I've been thinking about with these daily contracts and daily withdrawal contracts, that they are good because you can mitigate your risk and take money out. But what's bad about them is that you can't get any kind of edge over other people, because everyone is doing the same thing. There's no strategy you can apply. All you can do is put your money in and take your money out every day. I do like the simplicity, and I do like the risk mitigation there. But I think, for example, if you look at these type of contracts where you have multiple plans, I think because most people will take plan 4, the minimum lock-in period, I think you can kind of get a little bit of an edge by going in plan 1 and mitigating your risk, getting a lower return, but definitely getting some money out. And you don't have that kind of strategy play that you can make to Matic Vault, because it's basically everyone is the same thing. So the only really important thing is just to kind of get in early and hope it takes off. Yeah. So, and I think this one will take off because there's a little bit of buzz around Matic Vault, and people are talking about it. So I'm pretty confident that it will actually get a pretty good starting deposit. All right. So how are we going for time? We are 25 minutes in and still a lot to talk about. So I will try to keep things moving along. Matic King, it's still flagged as red with contract issues. So it's a big do not invest. In fact, if you go to the site, they will tell you don't deposit until further notice. They can't fix this. That's I don't follow any of their socials or anything along those lines, but it is a smart contract. They can't fix it. It's on the chain. It's immutable. It can't be changed. So it is what it is. If you put in money, I put in 20 Matic, and that investment dropped down to whatever it was. I don't know if you can see it, 1.5 Matic. So the issue that was happening on Matic King was that all the investments were dropping down. This was not reflecting people's current actual balance, and that's the case. It turns out that's the case. That's what it is on the chain. That's not just a website issue. So they can't fix it, in my opinion. So I'm in my last video, I kind of mentioned what I'm doing with Matic King, which I would not advise anyone to do because it's kind of stupid and risky. But basically, let's have a look. If you look at Matic King, the Matic King contract, what I noticed, and it's still happening, is that the contract is going up. The contract balance is going up. You can see this live balance has gone up slightly since the last update at around midnight UTC. So how is that happening? Because when you go to the website, you cannot actually deposit. They've removed the deposit button from the website. So I think what is happening is that people have gotten the same idea as me, and they're thinking that basically Matic King has a contract balance, but no one to pay it to. Because if you imagine people put in onto the balance this 400,000, whatever it was, you can look at it. So they paid onto that balance 484,000, but any deposit over 18 got reflected as less than 10%, let's say, of what it was. So if I put in 20 Matic, I got back 1.5. That's less than 10%. That's probably somewhere along 7.5% of my initial investment I got back. So all of these, any deposits that went in over 18 Matic got back about 7.5%. So when you get returns, you're only getting paid this kind of tiny amount in returns. You're getting back, so here on my investment, I'm getting back over a few days, I've gotten back 57 cents. So over a long period of time, this is eventually coming out. But there's an advantage to anyone who comes on now with a bunch of smaller deposits of less than 18 Matic, because that 18 Matic goes in as 18 Matic and they get their deposit. They can actually just eat up some of that balance that's sitting in there. So all this balance that's sitting on the contract that is not going to get paid to people or get paid out really slowly in tiny amounts. I think, if you put a bunch of 8 Matic or 15 Matic deposits on Matic King, then you can kind of just take some of that money. So I've done that a couple of times just in my quest to actually get my original deposit back. And I don't know if this is a good plan or a bad plan. I mean, it's high risk, but I'm putting it out there in case you want to take advantage of this opportunity. Matic King is pretty much dead. They might come back with a V2. The V2 might be okay, but look, Matic King version 1 is a high do not invest unless you want to take this ridiculous approach, and all the power to you. But if you want to do that, go to you can't do it through the website, as I've said. You have to go to the contract and you go to the contract itself under write contract, and you can make a deposit here somewhere, invest, payable amount, and you make a deposit. And so that's how it's done. That's what people are obviously doing because this contract balance is going up. And I make no guarantees. This is like the most risky thing that you can do, is just to put money onto an obviously faulty contract in the hopes that you get your money back. But look, if you want to do it, I'm putting that information out there. All right, let's move on. Matic Stake. Matic Stake. Let's see if I can find this among all of the tabs I have open. Yeah, so Matic Stake, I think we've spoken about. I'm not sure if there's much more to add. I've said risky because it's more than a few days old at this stage. I'm predicting the end is at March 26, which I think is pretty much just basically last the 14 days of the minimum period, lock-in period there, 14 days, on the assumption that most people don't go in the daily plan. So you can see that the balance keeps going up as it always does in the first half of that curve. But where I said, is this the one with, no, this doesn't have a very high investment. Yeah, I think that's probably just ticking along. And apologies for constantly flicking back here. I'm just trying to find my tabs. Matic Stake, where is it? Here it is, Matic Stake. So yeah, this is ticking along. I think it's pretty much, now that we're more than a few days in, it is going to be a risky investment. I wouldn't be going into any locked plans. You might want to try a daily profit, but at this point, it's kind of cutting it fine that you're going to get a return. You might come close to 100%. You might get just over 100%, but you might not get that far as well, depending on how long it lasts. You might get lucky and it lasts more than 14 days as well. But yeah, that's where we are at the moment with Matic Stake. Okay, let's talk about Matic Fomo V2. So if you've just noticed that these these balances have changed, because I've had to pause the video and fixed a couple of issues in the spreadsheet. But basically, Matic Fomo V2 I spoke about yesterday and just said it was had a very high initial investment. So even though we're early, people were kind of loading into that right up front. And so there was a lot of risk there. That's why the risk is medium, even though it was day one. And basically, because it has such a kind of large day one uptake, it's unsustainable that there'll be that much going every day. And in fact, there's very little that's gone into it by the looks of it in the last 24 hours. So I'm not sure if this March end date is actually going to even be borne out in the actual results, because it seems like the uptake has kind of dropped right off. I've put as I mentioned yesterday, my approach here was just to put a little bit into the daily plan and really just see if that lasts to hit 100% as the lowest risk option. I think kind of coming into it on day one, I should be able to at least get 100% back. I think that's a pretty good bet. I wouldn't go into a locked plan at all on Matic Fomo 2. And in fact, I'd probably start upgrading this to high risk at this stage, just because with that higher first day investment with a real drop off, that in the last 24 hours, it looks like it's only gone up very, very slightly. It's a real sign that either it's going to collapse on the 14th, or in 14 days time on the 29th, or if a lot of people are going into the daily plan, then it's not even going to last as long as the 14th. So I'm going to say that's a high, even though we're pretty early on Matic Fomo. Matic Meta, I've talked about. It's a do not invest in my books. There is a very high base rate at the start that makes it kind of a bad idea, but then they've left the forced withdrawal in there, and from my view, that's a non-starter. So it's a do not invest. That covers the Matic apps. Let's have a look at the Avax apps, and I guess just maybe some small updates here. So Matic Stain Shaker, I think I put we're pretty early, 2 days active on Matic Stain Stake chain Staker. Let's have a look at what that looks like. You can see it. It's a clone of which one was it? Matic Staker. It's the same thing again. And so where are we looking at? So live balance is going up. We're still early, as you'd expect. Kind of high fees and rates makes me question the sustainability of this one. So that's why the risk is medium, even though we're low with a reasonably good, remember this is Avax, reasonably good pickup. So kind of medium. Personally, I wouldn't go into anything apart from the daily plan, but that's just me. Avax Staker, we're late and the risk is high. Contract is still going up, but you can see not much. So if we imagine the curve, the ROI model curve, looks like we're kind of around this section on our way down. And in my opinion, it's not a good time to invest in Avax Staker. Multi-Matic on Avax. It's going up. Contract balance is going up, but we're in the risky side of things. So more than a few days old, less than a week is what I'd call risky. And I'm saying that's a high risk. So I don't have detailed predictions for these ones, mainly because I started on Matic, and that's where I've applied a lot of my time. And mostly I don't see much benefit in kind of doing predictions for ones that I already see are pretty much on their way out. I'd rather do them where there's benefit. All right, Avax Saving. Now this is one that I said, look, we're early. The contract balance is going up. We're only 2 days into it. Let's take a look at Avax Saving, if I can find it. Avax Saving. Yeah, so this is the one with just the one plan, and there's more plans on the contract if you looked at the contract, but it's only got one on the website. In my view, it has a high rate, which is unsustainable. It doesn't show all plans. The site is a bit dodgy. Uptake is not that massive. I mean, it's okay for Avax, but you know, this is one of those ones where you could probably go in and be fine, but on the other hand, maybe you know, it just doesn't seem right to me. So I would just say medium, but proceed with caution. That's your own risk. I'm not going to put anything into Avax Saving, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't if you want to. Avax Fomo. So let's see if I can find Avax Fomo on my page here. Okay, I might just pause the video for a moment. Okay, next on the list is Avax Fomo, and this is on the on the list as basically an early notification. So this is a one that's coming up in a few days' time. I think 2 days something time. It is, if we have a look at the site, it's basically the same thing we've seen. Launch in 2 days, 13 hours. It's the same Matic Staker layout, same plans, same ROI. You know, basically same starting balance. So it's all exactly the same as we've seen. And my general assessment to these, now that people are getting a little bit more savvy, is they're going to last 14 days, if that. As I think more people go onto the savings plan, this kind of 14-day lock as a minimum is not going to even sustain. I think Matic Staker was an exception. The fact that it lasted 28 days, I think we're not going to see that very often. There was a combination of kind of a low uptake to a really high uptake towards the end. A lot of naive people investing and losing their money. I don't think that's going to happen again. And I think most of these will stay around the 14 days. So I'm going to show this to you just as a something to put on your radar for 3 days time if you're interested. I will point out at the moment there's no audit. If you click on that audit button, it does absolutely nothing. So you basically just take what they're telling you as what it does and hope that there's an audit on there before it launches. So I'll let you guys know in a future update if there is an audit and what I think about that. But at the moment, calling this a high risk because there's no audit. Let's go to the Phantom apps, and Phantom 1 is dead, so we will hide that. There's no point having that on there to look at. And these next plans, I'm not going to really give much of an update because I think there's not too much to say. So Phantom World, I said, was already in the risky period. It's moving up, but I would avoid the lock plan. There's only 2 plans on Phantom World. Basically, this is a very strange one in my opinion. You've got the daily plan, 7% a day, which is not bad. That's actually pretty sustainable as far as these go. And then you got this weird locked 14-day plan, which I would never even consider. So, yeah, there's some potential in Phantom World. I think looking at the investments, they're still going up, although they're not going up very much. I'd avoid it entirely. I am avoiding it entirely, in fact, but it's probably a medium risk. If you go in the daily plan, you might be able to get a profit. Or at the very least, you might not lose that much if you're collecting daily. Multimatic on Phantom. Multimatic on Phantom is risky. It's flat. I'm not sure if that's because yeah, I've got that here. Live balance needs to be updated. Let's do that now. I think when I recorded this video, when I started recording, I had to update this because it was throwing an error. So let's update Multimatic. You can have a look at how this happens, because it's fun spreadsheet shenanigans if you're ever dealing with spreadsheets. And API is embedded in Google spreadsheets. It's not that much fun. Okay. Is that right? Or did I just delete the formula? Good job. Hide is what I meant to click. Okay. So hide that. And hide that. All right. And it's still flat. I don't know. In any case, it's risky. It's high. And the reason being, it's been open for 6 days. It's the same Multimatic everywhere. If you believe in Multimatic, you might think that this is good. Personally, I wouldn't invest in this on the Phantom network right now. That is my opinion. Phantom Staker, I've said just wanted to call that out. It has actually failed an audit, so that's a strong avoid on Phantom Staker. I would stay completely away from that. And Phantom Fomo, we're late to the party. It's 7 days old, and probably I wouldn't invest in that either at this late stage. And the BNB ones I wouldn't even consider at this stage, the Binance Chain ones, just because we're late to both of those, BNB Fury and the BUSD that has the forced withdrawal. So not much going on right now on the Binance network. So I think that's it, guys. I think the standouts from my view are, well, Matic Vault. I'll be putting some money into that one, and Matic Fomo V2 has some potential, but watch out. And you know, there are a couple of this Avax Fomo could be interesting in a couple of days' time. We'll see how that goes, but I'm not going to go through all these again. It's already a long video, so just let me know if there's anything that you think I've missed here, or if there's anything else you want to see on these snapshots. I'm not sure if I'm kind of going too in depth. I think if I just sit here and just kind of read a spreadsheet out without talking about it, it's not of much value. So I want to spend a little bit of time on this, but it also ends up quite a long video. So all that being said, let's not prolong this anymore. Thanks for watching. And if you do want to invest, use the links in the description to support the channel, and see you in the next video.